Two dicks, wow.
Yeah! Here we go! Here we go! Here we go!
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the 1IQ Football Talk podcast.
And having to go, yeah, but he did kind of do this.
What I'm hearing is you just want Tom Brady dead. Like, that's all I'm hearing at this point. You just want Brady dead.
Well, not anymore. He's retired now, so I'm good with that. I don't want him calling games anymore because, holy hell, he's hard to listen to.
Enough angry and, depressing from myself. Sterling, thank you for being able to sit there as my therapist for this episode.
Start the game already!
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the 1IQ Football Talk podcast. Brendan and Sterling coming at you for yet another week. And for both of us, Sterling, we're annoyed with our football teams, and that is likely where most of this conversation is going to be. But as always, how you doing, my friend?
Doing better than last week, that's for damn sure. At least on the personal level, not sick like I was last week, but on the football level, yeah, like you said, it's been tough watching our teams try to figure out how to play the sport of football.
Yeah, there's no real way to say it. I know in week number 1, you had yourself a very entertaining week of football where you're like, oh, wow, this is what our offense looks like. But, oh, wow, this is how bad our defense looks like. And it was, let's see how they look here in week number 2. And week number 2, they didn't look good on either side of the ball.
Right. I mean, the defense was able to get a couple of turnovers, but the offense couldn't score with that. And then this run game, yet again, they just not able to stop the run. And when you've got guys like TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith and Cam Hayward, if you can't stop the run, they don't have the opportunities to sack the quarterback because then the teams are not forced into third and longs, guaranteed passing downs, things like that. And when that's the case, most teams can just make short work of Pittsburgh. It's not good, man. And depending on how this week has gone against the Patriots, it could be a point of hitting that panic button. It has been a long stretch. I threw some stats at you this week that I think surprised you a little bit about this Pittsburgh Steelers team. The last 10 weeks, dating back to last season, they have allowed 300 yards to gain every game. They have allowed 30 plus points every game. It is not good. Depending on how yesterday went, if they didn't pull out a win, then that means they still have not won in Foxborough since 2008. There are a lot of records and streaks that have been happening with this Pittsburgh Steelers team in the negative side. It's not been good. And if this defense cannot figure out a way to stop the run, then you might as well just blow it up. Steelers fans are getting sick of hearing the Tomlinisms around run defense and the run game when you're not stopping it. Every week they're like, yeah, this is our priority. It's always stop the run first, stop the run first. So that means we're not even getting to whatever the hell happens second, third, and fourth because they're not even stopping the run. And so if you're not even doing the first thing on the list that you say you want to do, what's the point in even showing up and putting the pads on?
Yeah, it's really weird to describe what's happening with the Steelers at the moment because going into this year, I don't think either of us would have necessarily feared. Like, I know the run game wasn't necessarily a strength of this defense last year, but by no means was it something that they were hurt by at a high level at most points. You're just like, okay, they need to get better in the run defense, but at the end of the day, they're also not horrible in terms of stopping the run. And it's just one of those teams where they can definitely get better, but they're not going to be hurt by what happens with this. And go ahead.
It's been bad football. I don't know if it's the coaching or what it is, but like another stat the Steelers are, I think it was, they're dead last right now in the NFL for missed tackles. They have missed 28 tackles through 2 weeks of football. Do you know how many tackles the LA Rams have missed through 2 weeks of football?
0.
Not a one.
Yeah.
They are the best. And like, these are things that cannot happen when you have such an elite defense. I didn't bring this streak up at the start of the year because a lot of what happened last year was the defense was on the field so much that, yeah, you're going to give up more yards. The purpose of this year was a improved offense, in theory, on paper, that was going to be able to control the pace of play more, which would allow the defense to rest and not have to be on the field as much. Great. They're giving up 20-plus yard run plays regularly. They're getting it into 3rd and longs on occasion and giving up 25-yard pass plays to convert a first down. You've got all this Pro Bowl potential on the defense, and they're just not getting it done. I can't fathom what's going on. It's reaching this point where I've been a Mike Tomlin defender for a long time, but it was said long ago that after Bruce Arians left, the offense lacked an identity, and they haven't been able to find it ever since. And it's now starting to come to fruition that the last of the guys from the Dick LeBeau era have retired and left. Since Dick LeBeau left, this defense has not been the same. Everybody says it's Mike Tomlin's defense, but Mike Tomlin's defense is not very good right now. It was Dick LeBeau's defense he inherited, much like it was Bill Cowher's team that he inherited that he won a Super Bowl with. It's starting to look now like Mike Tomlin, great. He is inspirational. He can will his team to win 9 games a year. That's just good enough to keep him off the hot seat. That's it.
Which is something that I've been saying for years now. And
Mhm.
like, where I know when people were talking about, this idea of the Bears potentially training for Mike Tomlin during the offseason last year when they were looking for their head coach, I said no. That would be detrimental to the Bears. Yeah, they would be an improved team, they would be a more solidified team, but they're not going to win a Super Bowl. And at the end of the year, it's either you're building, you're rebuilding, or you're competing for a Super Bowl. Those are the only 3 metrics you can have. And the Steelers, it's been every single year, it's been we're competing for a Super Bowl, but for the last 8 seasons, it's been we're competing for a Super Bowl. Either we can't make it past our first playoff game, or we don't get there to begin with. And it's not to say that Mike Tomlin won't be a Hall of Famer as a head coach, because he will, because no one can have the amount of winning seasons that you have in a row without being a good coach or an elite coach. It's just the problem for Mike Tomlin is there was a very large shift in the NFL about 10 years ago of where it's if you don't have a quarterback and you don't have someone who can consistently call plays for that quarterback, who can stay there for a multitude of years, you are going to be behind the 8 ball no matter how good of a team that you build. I.e., look at the Chiefs. Andy Reid, offensive play caller, gets himself Alex Smith. They build relationships and they start to build that team up, and they get better and better and better and better. Then they get Patrick Mahomes, and it's okay, we're going to let him sit for a year, but then we're going to be a Super Bowl caliber team the year after. And we're going to take it to the next level. You listen to Tom Brady talk for years and years and years, and he says one of the biggest reasons why he had success is because the coaching staff, for the most part, throughout his NFL tenure, was the same. He didn't have to learn a brand new language every single season, trying to ultimately figure out how to utilize this offensive coordinator. How does this offensive coordinator like to use this verbiage or that verbiage? It's just, it was the exact same. And he even said, he's like, learning a new offensive playbook is like learning a new language, essentially. It's like learning German. It's like learning Spanish. Sure, there might be some nuances here, like learning French and Spanish is relatively easy to do from both of those languages because they have a lot of similarities, but it's still learning a new language, and that's the biggest problem that the Steelers have had.
Yeah, it's been offensive coordinator after offensive coordinator trying to do new things, trying to be fancy, and it's just, it doesn't help that you've been rotating through quarterbacks lately as well. I think that was their hope this year was bringing a guy like Aaron Rodgers where sure, he's going to be able to pick up the language of Arthur Smith. He's going to be able to call those plays, but he also has the football IQ where when he gets to the line, if he goes, yeah, this play's not going to work, he can audible it, and he can do so in a timely and efficient manner and still get a playoff and usually a play that will work.
Yeah,
That hasn't been a possibility for the last few years. You can't have Kenny Pickett doing that. You can't have Mitchell Trubisky doing that. You can't have Mason Rudolph doing that. And what happens next year when it's not Aaron Rodgers again? You're going
because
to go
he's
out and
only on
get
that 1 year deal.
right?
Yep.
Are you going to try to convince Phillip Rivers to come out of retirement? Right? Are you going to bring Joe Flacco over to be on another AFC North team like that? That's the blueprint that they are currently building for this team, and it's not going to win them a championship. If anything, it's just going to delay the inevitable, which is rebuild, find a new head coach.
Right now, what the Steelers are doing with quarterbacks is what I remember happening to the Colts with quarterbacks after Andrew Luck suddenly retired. Now, that was a situation where the Colts definitely got a little bit blindsided by what happened with Andrew Luck, where it was like, hey, after a week 3 game, I remember it well because the Colts were playing the Bears in that preseason game, and then it was like at halftime, it's like, oh, Andrew Luck is requesting a special media timeout during halftime, and he announces he's retiring from football. And of course, the Colts are going to feel a little bit backslide, and they're going to have a little bit of struggle. But then it was like, oh, we're just a quarterback away, and so we'll just add this quarterback. And then it's like, oh, well, that quarterback didn't work, so we'll add this one, and that one didn't work, so we'll add this one. And then you just go through this motion as opposed to them just saying like, listen, we just need to take our lumps this year. We need to get ourselves into a position, which the Colts finally did. They finally said like, we'll take our lumps. They then drafted Anthony Richardson 4th overall, but so it's not like it works out every single time, but I don't know. It gives your fans something to be excited for as opposed to just going like, let's throw this insert name here and hope anything's different. Which for the Steelers, it's been let's insert offensive coordinator and quarterback here and hope it works, and then it goes, okay, that hasn't worked. And for the Steelers, they've been doing this longer than the Colts did that process, which I know for you has to be unbearably frustrating.
Well, it is, and it's frustrating for a lot of Steelers fans right now. Like I said, there's this fatigue among Steelers fans with the Tomlinisms right now. Because it's the same thing every week. And when the team's winning, yeah, those Tomlinisms are funny. But the problem right now is the team is not winning. Even when they get a win, it's still a loss. That week 1, yeah, we won on the scoreboard, but you gave up 30 points to a Jets offense that shouldn't have been able to score that. You'd let them run for over 100 yards on you, and you're still coming out saying the standard is the standard. So what? The standard is allowing 300 yards, allowing a 100-yard rusher every game, and hoping to God your offense can put up 35 points to win? Like, we don't have Joe Burrow at quarterback here. If we did, then I wouldn't care that our defense was allowing 30 points a game because it'd be like, oh, well, Joe Burrow will put up 40. That's no problem. But there's only one Joe Burrow in the league, and right now he's sitting with his foot up. So nobody has a Joe Burrow right now.
Yeah, it is just one of those things where there's no real way to talk about it other than like it's just I said this with every coach that I've seen. If you're like an acronyms guy, it's like oh, the hits principle, like with Eberflus, I immediately knew at that moment. I was like, okay, this guy's an idiot. But and you just like constantly use the saying, oh, the standard is the standard. Well, if this is the standard's pretty dog shit.
Yeah, it's not a good standard anymore. That's the issue. Like Mike Tomlin, he uses all these because he just doesn't want to talk to the media. He's like the Marshawn Lynch of head coaches, where it's I'm only here so I don't get fined. And that's why he throws out these random phrases just to get them to stop asking questions. But as fans, like, we're at the point now where we want some answers. Why is the defense this bad when you've spent this much money? It's the highest paid defense in the league for how many years in a row? And you're giving up more points than half the league, more than half the league. You're giving up more yards to gain every week than over half the league. It's the standard is not good enough. If this is what your standard is, you need to figure out some way to change that. And you can't do it the way that you were doing it in 2008 before the player safety initiative. You can't just go out there and go, okay, we just need a smash mouth game. Go out there and hit somebody and make them see stars. You can't do that anymore. You need to find a different way to motivate these guys. And it's starting to seem like he doesn't have that way to motivate them anymore.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I just continue to sit back and go like, man, like, you can only say so much in some of these situations where it's like, man, like, you just look at some of these things and just go, it is incredibly frustrating to ultimately watch and try to talk about and deal with.
If I'm the Rooney family and Omar Khan right now, I'm looking at this going, we need to step back. We need to let Mike Tomlin crash and burn if that's what's going to happen this year. Let it be a bad year if that's what it is. But they need to be doing their work behind the scenes, and they need to be compiling a list now of going, okay, these are the offensive-minded guys that we think are going to be available next year that will fit with our image in Pittsburgh. And these are the quarterbacks that we think might be available either via trade because they're going to be a backup somewhere, or because they're just not doing well enough where they are, but you think that they could turn it around with the right coach, whatever that may be. They need to be compiling this list and planning now, figuring out how do we start this rebuild effectively next year with a new head coach, a new youthful quarterback, and trading the hell out of this team. Because TJ Watt's still going to garner value. Granted, if this season goes bad enough and they keep not stopping the run and he ends up with 5 sacks on the season, you're not getting 2 first rounders for him anymore. You're going to have to settle for maybe a first rounder, more than likely a second and third rounder.
Yeah,
is what you're going to get for him now. Because if this season goes badly enough, you're going to lose all that trade value as a result. And so it's not looking good. They need to turn it around fast. And I'm still going to be cheering for them. I still look at this team and you look at the makeup on paper, and it is one of those ones where you go, if the coaches can get this right and get these guys on the right trajectory, this still has the makeup of a great team. You have all the talent at all the positions in all 3 areas of the game. Maybe stop putting guys out there that have only returned 5 kickoffs in their lifetime to return kicks and not understanding the rules in Caleb Johnson. I don't fault him for that. Like, it was a bonehead move. It was a dumb play. But then when you look at it and go, well, he's only returned 5 kicks in his life. That includes high school, college, everything. He's only been on that kick return team 5 times. So usually you look at it and go, you learn the rules of a kickoff when you're playing Pee Wee football. Sure, you do. You're not going to commit those to memory if you never return kicks. And so you get to the NFL level, and most of these coaches are going to look at it and go, okay, we don't have to explain the rules to you. Maybe you should do your research and your homework and go, this guy doesn't return kicks. Yeah, he's explosive. He's fun to watch. He holds onto the ball well. Maybe we should refresh his memory, is what they should have done. Instead, you left him out there to crash and burn, and then everybody's dogpiling on him, blaming him for everything that happened. It's like, dude didn't know the rule. Yeah, it's dumb. At that level, you should know the rule. But his coaches should be making sure he knows the rules.
Yeah, and when it comes regard for that, I just sit back and again, I was a massive fan of Caleb Johnson coming out of Iowa. I wanted the Bears to draft him. I said I think he's the perfect fit for what Ben Johnson wants to do in this offense in terms of the running game. But when we talk about a kick returner, again, when you talk kick returners and punt returners, you need to go with who is the greatest of all time, and you need to build off that archetype. Devin Hester is the greatest returner of all time. There's no debate. There's no question about that. When you look at Devin Hester and you look at Caleb Johnson, you see two very, very different players. And
Yep.
Caleb Johnson, while he has some quickness to his game, he's not Devin Hester fast. He's more Derrick Henry than he is
Yes.
Devon Achane. Devon Achane,
Mhm.
if you want him in the return game, it makes sense because he's a little bit more shiftier out there. When you watch Caleb Johnson play at Iowa, what he was so good at, and people are going, well, he's so shifty and he's so elusive. Well, yeah, because he can make those reads behind the line of scrimmage and go, I'm going to go here. And then when I'm out in open space and I have a little bit of that momentum going, I can make a cut and do this and that and make myself look really good. But to have him out there and reading kick return lanes and punt return lanes is so different to then reading what your offensive line is giving you. And so I look at that and I go, you guys have Calvin Austin, who had been returning punts. You had
Right.
Cordarrelle Patterson on your team and cut him before the year. Yes, he might just be a returner. Guess what? The Bears have Devin Duvernay on their team, and I'll tell you this, he's wide receiver 6 on the roster. He is just a returner. And the Bears are more than comfortable with that because having a guy that is able to return and just do that is all you need sometimes. And to have Caleb Johnson out there, I know your special teams coordinator that, well, because what is he, like 70 years old? Like I forget his name. Like he's always been considered a very smart, very intelligent guy. I look at that and I go, not the player. And I will
I
say,
don't think that was his decision.
might not have been his decision, but I sit back and say every player that wants to get on the field, I always say learn how to be good on special teams because that's how you have longevity in the NFL. That's how you keep getting contract after contract after contract, is having special teams versatility. But there's also times when you're a player of that and go like, listen, I might be better as the guy right in front of the main two returners as opposed to being the main guy returning the kickoff. Like
Yeah.
just
I,
some really, really weird decisions.
It was Caleb Johnson back there. That was a bizarre choice because, as you said, Calvin Austin, he has shown on special teams how good he is, and he is still the punt returner. He's a little better at the punt return because you got that speed, but for a kick return, you talk about how it's so different when you're finding the gaps behind your offensive line as opposed to finding the gaps on the kick return, which is new to everybody right now. It's only year 2 or 3 of this new kickoff
Yeah, you
rule,
too.
and so it's new to everybody. But you want a guy who's good at making essentially people in the second level miss is what you're looking at for this. You got Jalen Warren. Why do you not have Jalen Warren back there returning kicks if that's the way you want to play this? That's a guy who we've seen is able to pinball and make guys miss in that second and third level of the defense. And so that would be the more logical running back to have back there if you wanted to do that. That's the way I've looked at it, is like it should be Jalen Warren and Calvin Austin back there returning the kicks. It should not be Caleb Johnson. Give Caleb Johnson a bigger role in the run game if that's what you have to do to get him out there and get him some reps. But don't put him out there on special teams. He's not that kind of a shifty guy. He's more of a north-south and make the linemen miss. You're not going up against a lot of D linemen on kick returns.
Yeah, the only reason I would think that the Steelers have Caleb Johnson out there as opposed to Jalen Warren is they're saying, oh, Jalen Warren is our main number one back. We can't have that guy go down. And I sit back and I say, Jalen Warren has not proven to me in the NFL that he is just your traditional number one back. The Steelers, even when Najee Harris was here, it was Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. It was Jalen Warren and Najee Harris. It's a split backfield. There's a reason. There's a very good reason of why the Detroit Lions don't use Jahmyr Gibbs in punt returns or kickoff returns. because he is their feature back. Why do you think that the Philadelphia Eagles don't use Saquon Barkley in that situation? He's so good in space. It's because they're worried about, and if the Steelers are saying that with Jalen Warren, I just sit back and I just go smack, smack, smack. Think better.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
neither
that's
of those
exactly
guys.
it. It's still split carries. It's still Jalen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell is the running back room now, and they're splitting the carries fairly consistently. So it is. Get Jalen Warren out there returning the kicks if you want a running back. But honestly, use Calvin Austin. He's got that speed. He's got that explosiveness. And with these new kickoffs, if you can find one hole and explode through it, you're gone. We saw that last week. Dolphins and Patriots. You know, there was a back and forth of kick returns, a punt return for a touchdown, and then a kick return for a touchdown. We've seen more of it this year. Teams are starting to figure out how to do it. And the Steelers, just for some reason, they're experimenting like they're in college. And now's not the time, guys. Like, we
Yeah.
got rid of Matt Canada because we were tired of the college experimentation. Stop this shit.
Yeah, and when it comes to the Steelers versus Patriots, this is going to be a very pivotal game. Now, again, by the time this podcast comes out, that game will ultimately be played. But it's been one of those things where I just sit back and go like, man, if the Steelers lose this game to the Patriots, because they shouldn't lose this game. They shouldn't have lost against the Seahawks. They shouldn't have allowed the Jets to be as close as they were. Like, I remember when we were doing our game predictions, it was like, man, like, this is going to be a pretty easy walk to 3-0 at this point.
Should have been.
If you're the Steelers and you lose this game to the Patriots, because I don't know who you have in week 4.
Week 4 is when we travel to Ireland to play the Vikings, and I've said if they lose this week, I'm not waking up at 7:30 to watch that game.
No.
Why would I? Well, why? So I can watch them lose in Ireland while I'm really tired having my coffee? Like, no.
Yeah, it's and that game's not going to be a given for them as well, because I mean, if Aaron Jones is healthy in that game, you still have Mason.
Carson Wentz probably still playing quarterback at that point.
Yeah, but the potential to go 0-4 at that point is huge. And
1-4 or 1-3, because they did win week 1.
Oh, yeah, right. You're correct. Yeah. To go 1-3 at that point. I'm not saying if you are coming home, you leave Tomlin in Ireland, but yeah, it's this Steelers team. After week 1, I think there was a lot of attention of, oh, the Steelers got their guy in Aaron Rodgers, but then everyone kind of just didn't pay attention to the glaring issue that was also present on there. And now I think people saw that with the Seahawks, and if it happens with the Patriots, it's going to be like, why are we even talking about this Steelers team being Super Bowl caliber when we should just be talking about this Steelers team winning football games first?
100%.
Speaking of another team that we're going to be talking about trying to win football games, it is my Chicago Bears. Like we said at the start of this podcast, it is essentially us in really bad spots with our teams. And
breaking down our teams, yeah.
You know, week 1, I sat back and said, I think Caleb Williams lost that game with his missed throws. I didn't get to watch the full game for the Bears because I was calling my own football game. It's one of those instances where you see a 52-21, I think that was the final score, loss, and you go, oh, I'm really happy I didn't watch that one. The game that I was calling in real life, it was 51-3, and the team that I broadcast for got the 3 in that instance. So I'm kind of sit back going, I might have rather watched the Bears and Lions in that instance. So it wasn't a great day for me on Sunday last week for terms of watching football, but yeah, I said coming into this year, I knew the offense was going to be a little bit slow to get started. It's a complicated ass offense. It's a complicated one that's hard to learn. And I said, I'm concerned about the defense. And people said to me, I don't know how you can be concerned about the defense. It's really good. I'm like, well, who's going to rush the passer? Well, you have Montez Sweat. Okay. The guy who got 5.5 sacks last year? Well, he was double teamed a bunch and he was chipped a bunch. And someone tweeted out this week that out of all of the edge rushers in the NFL in terms of percentage wise of being chipped and double teamed, can you take a guess where Montez Sweat ranks in that?
I'd say probably around 32 to 35.
64th.
Yeah.
So not
So he's getting chipped and blocked less than the second edge rusher for most teams.
Yeah. So not only are teams not double teaming Montez Sweat, they are not chipping him at a high rate. He's not winning his one-on-one matchups. The dude's making $25 million plus to be that top end edge rusher, and he's not doing that. Deo Odangbo, I'd never had a hope in hell for him regardless. You know, the rest of the defensive line, I still had question marks about. You're missing secondary players. TJ Edwards wasn't there in the linebacker spot. He's your best linebacker. Jalen Johnson missed week number 1, and he left in the second quarter in week number 2, and it was now officially placed on IR as of 15 minutes ago. So he's out for the year.
Yep.
No Kyler Gordon. Kyler Gordon is arguably the best nickel corner in football. You don't have that out there. Like, you're just looking at it going like, man, like, it is just not good at the moment. And it all starts with what's up front. Like, again, the linebackers, there's injuries there. There's nothing you can do. The secondary, it's really banged up. You're missing two of your best players in the secondary. I can excuse some of that because there's injuries. Next man up mentality, you have to be better with that. And I do think the Bears have some decent players at those positions, but they're just not good enough here at the moment. But when you have a bad D-line, it amplifies those problems 10 times more. And I said it going into this year, that's my concern. This team didn't do enough to address the edge rusher spot. They didn't do enough to, add to those pieces, and it's really frustrating. The other thing that's really, really, really goddamn frustrating to me is the Bears' running game. I said the Bears needed a running back. I said I like DeAndre Swift. I think he's a fine running back, but he's not your number one. And the Bears, the only thing that they did to add to that running back room was draft a guy in the 7th round who I think is probably our best running back on the team. But I want to tell you something right here. I want to give you some stats. The Bears running game, and like I'm going to give you two numbers here, two stats. So, yards before contact per attempt. Where do you think the Bears rank in that?
Like before contact per attempt, probably like, I don't know, 2.
They're first in the NFL.
Yeah.
So meaning that on designed run plays, Ben Johnson and his offense and his offensive line have called the best and most efficient run game in the NFL in terms of how many yards your running back is getting before first contact is being made. And again, first contact could literally just be like a touch on the shoulder.
Yeah.
With 1.89 yards per play. Best in the NFL right now. Now, granted, it's only over a 2-week sample size, but that is the best in the NFL. So, where do you think the Bears rank in terms of EPA per rush attempt?
Oh, I mean, for DeAndre Swift, he's not good as soon as he makes contact, so they're probably dead last for that.
They are dead last. And where do you think they are in terms of success rate for rushing attempts?
Probably near the same, because it's not a success if you're getting tackled at the line of scrimmage. Because let's be real, 1.9 yards with where your running back lines up, that usually is maybe getting you halfway back to the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, so in terms of success rate, they're 32. In terms of EPA/rush, they're 31st. So, like, this is 100% a DeAndre Swift problem. You have the best running lanes in the NFL and the best run game in terms of contact or yards before contact, and you are the 32nd ranked person. That is so unbelievably bad. It's insane. And it's mind-boggling. And then the other interesting thing, because I know a lot of people want to attack the Bears offense, in terms of big plays throughout the NFL, where do you think the Bears rank in terms of just big plays?
I mean, they got to be in the bottom five. I can think of two big plays I've seen from them this season.
They're second.
Really?
Yep. The Baltimore Ravens have 19 big plays leading the NFL. The Chicago Bears are tied with two other teams in second place with 16.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just one of those things where, and those two other teams are the Raiders and the Rams that they're tied with. So the Colts are 15, the Jets are 15, the Chiefs are 15. I want you to take a guess where your Pittsburgh Steelers are at with where they're in terms of big plays.
I mean, they've had 6,
9.
9. Okay.
Yep. There's only there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams that are below them. The Bengals and Titans are the worst with 6. The
Yep.
Browns are 7, Panthers and Dolphins at 8, and then you have the Steelers tied with the Vikings, Saints, and Patriots at the moment. So when I've heard like Bears fans talk about how Ben Johnson, it clearly isn't the guy at this stage, and it's like, A, it's 2 weeks into his head coaching career, and B,
Yeah.
we hired him to be an offensive genius, and in the first 2 weeks, the Bears are the second most explosive plays in the NFL, and the running lanes are the best in the NFL.
Yeah.
You just need to get yourself a running back. I'll say this. If Kyle Monangai does not get the majority of the rushing attempts, now Kyle Monangai is the 7th round rookie that the Bears drafted out of Rutgers this year. If he doesn't get the majority of the running snaps this week, it's like I'm looking at that going like we're talking about coaching malpractice. Because if I can see these stats, you sure as hell know the coaching staff is seeing these stats. And that will be my first kind of like, Ben Johnson, what in the fuck? Like you can't keep putting out DeAndre Swift out there. And it's really really frustrating. And Caleb Williams has taken strides this year. He got better from week 1 to week 2. Was it good enough? No. We're going to need to see it be a lot more, but man, it's just one of those things I just go, it is just so unbearably frustrating. And it's, yeah, I don't really know what to say.
Yeah, no, I get where you're coming from. It's some of the wild takes we've been seeing only 2 weeks into the season from people. Ben Johnson not being the guy. We've seen some others from some other teams. Like Ashton Genty being a bust and stuff like that we've talked about. There's a lot of clickbaity headlines going on lately, and it's driving me a little nuts. Saying a guy like Ben Johnson, who did the things he did with the Detroit Lions offense and that Detroit Lions team, after 2 weeks with Caleb Williams going, oh, this guy's a bust. Like, if anything, I'm looking more at Caleb Williams going, okay, maybe Caleb's not got quite the football speed that he needs to have to run a Ben Johnson offense. That's more my concern. I'm not worried about Ben Johnson not getting it done because, as you've pointed out, the stats are lining up where the coaches are doing their jobs. It's the players on the field that aren't quite hitting their targets where they need to be. And like for me, when it comes to that Bears offense, it's Caleb Williams that I'm more concerned with in that offense than anything else. Is he going to be able to actually wrap his head around this Ben Johnson playbook, or is he going to struggle to the point where he makes Ben Johnson look bad? But even then, I'm not prepared to make any distinction on that until like week 4 of next season. Not even this season. I want to see how the trajectory goes throughout this season. and then how the off season plays out. If this is a bad year, but we see little growth, and then we see Caleb Williams in the off season working to improve, I'm a lot less skeptical and concerned. If this season goes bad and Caleb Williams just doesn't do anything next off season to improve it himself, that's when I start throwing the red flags and going, maybe you guys need a different guy at quarterback.
Well, and like I said after week number one, I'm sure I said this in the last week podcast. I know I've said this to you, whether it was either in person, whether we were gaming, or whether it was on the podcast, where it was the clock has started for Caleb Williams for me. Because, you know, I said in year number 2, I'm like, okay, you can't start the clock on Justin Fields because he has a new head coach. He doesn't really have a ton of weapons. It's a weird year for him. Like, it's not a fair judgment point. With Caleb Williams, he has all the weapons. He has a brand new offensive line. He has the offensive guru head coach that is clearly doing the things that he needs to do and still growing in his own aspect as a head coach. That if we're after like the halfway point of this season, if I don't continue to see growth at the rate that I want to see it, I will be calling for the Bears to move on from him, which is now granted, he could have an insanely good back half of the season that changes my opinion on him, but that will be like one of those things where it's like, I'm not giving you the benefit of the doubt anymore. It's you need to put together way more weeks of positivity than negativity for me to consider saying, like, I'm even going to give you the off season type situation, because I don't think the Bears can afford to have another situation of where they wait on a quarterback going into year 3 or year 4, where it's like, you're supposed to be a generational talent. Get it done.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that, you know, with the stats that you brought to light, that Bears need to remedy the run game, because no quarterback is going to be successful without having an efficient run game. And while it may be efficient before contact, it is not efficient after the fact. And that's where the problem is, because a lot of these teams are going to be able to look at it and go, oh, well, you know, we don't have to send anybody extra to stop the run. We need to key on the pass, make sure everybody's covered. And as soon as somebody touches DeAndre Swift, he's going to fall down like he got shot. So we're all good.
Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much my level of frustration. I know what this Bears team is here at the moment. There are things that I would like to see them do, but that could easily be done for next week. I know you got to go here in a little bit, so we're kind of speeding some things along here. And again, there wasn't really a ton of things other than for us to talk about. So we're going to move over to this or that here for this particular week. And again, if you are unfamiliar with the segment, it is where we ask each other a couple of questions. We will still answer the questions ourselves, but it's kind of diving into some things a little bit deeper. And Sterling, I will let you kick things off with your question first.
All right. Well, first up for you, I have a question pertaining to what was one of our toilet bowl picks for this week. It's not. Sorry. My first question actually is which surprising 2-0 team can keep their winning momentum going? Because we talked at the beginning of the season about teams that we knew were going to be good and some that we thought were going to be bad. 2 of them are sitting at 2-0 that I don't think many people expected. Arizona Cardinals and the Indianapolis Colts. Both have won both their games so far. Which one do you think is going to be able to keep that winning momentum going and possibly even make a playoff push?
I think it's 100% the Cardinals. When I look at the Colts, I said this during our game prediction video, where this Colts team is reminding me too much of what we saw from this New Orleans Saints team last year at the start of the year, where we all looked at the Saints and went, man, they're just not going to be that good of a team. And then they got off to that ridiculously hot start in week number 1 and week number 2, where we're like, holy shit, maybe the Saints are back. Like, maybe we're thinking about this team completely differently. Like, Alvin Kamara is taking this team to a whole new spot. Oh my goodness, like this, that, and the other thing. And then it completely fell off of a cliff. And I sit back and I go, I have that same sort of feeling with the Indianapolis Colts right now, where it's, again, you're 2-0, haven't even punted the ball yet this season, and you're beating a couple teams that frankly no one expected you to go out there and beat. While the Cardinals, they ultimately went up against some more cupcakey type of teams, with week number 1 against the New Orleans Saints and week number 2 against the Carolina Panthers. While I don't think they're necessarily going to go out there and win this particular week against the 49ers, again, this comes out after that game is ultimately being played. I think they're going to have a little bit more of the consistent year because they have the better quarterback in my opinion. I think they have the better offense in my opinion. I think James Conner is a really good running back who's just going to stay stable. Again, Trey McBride is still really good. Marvin Harrison Jr. is also good. I trust the defense a little bit more with the Cardinals than I do with the Colts. But yeah, I like this answer could very much change in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But yeah, like right now, I'm expecting the Colts to completely fall off the cliff like we saw from the Saints, and I'm expecting the Cardinals to kind of just be that middle of the pack team this year.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. It'll probably be the Cardinals that have the more likely chance to maintain that momentum. They've got the tougher division they're playing in too, because I
Yep.
mean that AFC South division is not great right now. I mean, Colts are leading it at 2-0, and you got the Texans at 0-2, Titans at 0-2, and the
Jags at
Jags
one
at
and
one and
one.
one.
Yep.
Yeah, so
Yeah, my first question for you here, this also regards in the opposite in this instance. You were talking about 2-0 teams. Which 0-2 team here currently in the NFL should be the most concerned?
the Dolphins, definitely the Dolphins. All the other 0-2 teams, barring the Chiefs, are not surprising. You know, you got teams like the Bears, the Jets, um,
The Giants, the
the
Titans,
Browns,
Panthers,
the Giants.
Browns.
Yeah, like there's a lot that you look at and you go, they were kind of expected to be 0-2. You know, nobody's surprised by any of that. The Dolphins, though, you've got Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill. You paid Tua a bunch of money. Like, you were expected to be the team in that division that could compete with the Bills. It's not looking good. Like, we're on a trajectory right now where by trade deadline, Tyreek Hill's going to be wearing a different jersey. Jalen Waddle might be wearing a different jersey. Mike McDaniels could be the offense coordinator in San Francisco again all of a sudden. Like, this Dolphins team could look entirely different by mid-season if they don't find a way to turn things around, because it's not looking very good right now. The Chiefs, I'm not as worried about because they lost against a couple of talented,
Super Bowl
high-profile
teams.
teams, and we've talked about it a few times where I feel at least like the Chiefs feel like they're entering that slumping Patriots era like we saw where Tom Brady won a bunch early in his career and then just couldn't quite get back there for years and years and years. You know, like we see analysts talk about it all the time where Tom Brady, he had 2 Hall of Fame careers essentially, is what it is with a
Some people even
really,
consider it 3.
yeah, I mean, except he didn't win any Super Bowls in that third one.
Well,
So,
he did though. He did. Like most people consider it's like the first Patriots thing, the second one, and then after 40, like 40 and past is kind of like that third Hall of Fame career.
oh, see, and I sort of consider it the first Patriots thing, and then the end of the Patriots and the Bucks is sort
Yeah.
of all together because those were just year after year.
No,
You
like
know, there's
I
one
get you.
down year in
Yeah.
there only, so that's why I considered it as part of that.
I just know some people consider it kind of in that little bit of a round of it's like
That's
1,
fair.
2, and 3.
Yeah, but that's sort of where I feel like the Chiefs are going right now. Like this team lacks an identity, and if the referees aren't calling plays in their advantage, then they can't seem to get over the humps right now. And we've seen it. A good quarterback with an aging tight end isn't going to be able to win you championships. You know, that was sort of the struggle that we saw a little bit out of Gronk and Brady for a little while there. They were great. They were putting up great stats. They were winning games. They weren't winning titles. Right now, Mahomes and Kelsey aren't even putting up good stats together. And so there are some concerns in Kansas City, but they're still going to be a winning team even if they can't quite win a title. The Dolphins. the Dolphins need to be concerned at 0-2 right now, because this team was supposed to get better every year, and they have not been.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with you. It is the Dolphins, and Dolphins need to be so unbelievably concerned with how things are going here at the moment. Because again, I think Mike McDaniels is a good head coach. I do. I just think the team, just going back to when they drafted Tua as opposed to Justin Herbert in that year. And
Yep.
again, that's revisionist history, so I'm not really going to look at that. But I just remember listening to things that came out after the Bears practice from their players and their media going like, oh, they were too physical. It's like, it's football. It's a physical game. And this is the first time that these guys were allowed to hit someone that's not on their team. Of course it's going to be a physical practice. Like, pull the stick out of your ass and play some fucking football. And yeah, at that moment, I knew this Dolphins team was, it was either going to go one of two ways. It was going to go either the way that we're seeing now, or it was just going to be just one of those things where it's just like, haha, that was a silly joke, and they're going to be a 9-8 team.
Yeah,
And
see, and I'm more leaning towards it not going that way. Like this Dolphins team has a lot of problems. We're
they're
recording this
massively.
Saturday after the Thursday night game where we saw what happened with the Bills and the Dolphins as well. And like the Dolphins have several cold weather games coming up late in the year here. Tua showed up to Buffalo in 72-degree weather wearing a fucking parka.
I thought it was
Like, it was
80
too cold in
degrees.
Buffalo this week for him. So how's it going to be when he has to go to Pittsburgh in December?
Yeah.
How's it going to be when he has to travel to any other team that is outside of Florida, essentially? This Dolphins team is in for a tough ride.
Yeah.
Not good.
Not
My
a
second
bit
one
good.
for you, as I was saying earlier, this was sort of our toilet bowl. It's the Vikings and the Bengals. What team is more likely to be good with their backup playing for at least the next few weeks in the Vikings case, for possibly the rest of the season in the Bengals case? Which team is still going to be able to win enough games that we'll be talking about them in December, maybe being competitive? The Minnesota Vikings or the Cincinnati Bengals?
This is really tough because when you look at the Bengals, Jake Browning has been with this organization, I think, for his entire career. He knows the offensive system that he's playing in, and we've seen him play with some of these weapons out there and looked halfway decent. Carson Wentz is new to this team, but Kevin O'Connell, man, he is just a wizard when it comes to quarterback. He revived Kirk Cousins' career. He revived Sam Darnold's career. JJ McCarthy's too early in his career to talk. Can he have this revival of Carson Wentz? I don't think so, but like I'm going to lean a little bit more to Kevin O'Connell just because we've seen this guy work magic with guys that we've basically said are done. And I know when JJ McCarthy got hurt last year, we're looking at the Vikings going, man, it's Sam Darnold. It's not going to be good. And then Sam Darnold puts together an MVP caliber season. And you're just like, oh, wow. There's a reason Kevin O'Connell got head coach of the year last year. Is because that team was 14 wins with Sam Darnold as quarterback. I repeat, 14 wins with Sam Darnold at quarterback. Like, so for me, I'm going to lean towards Minnesota just because of who the head coach is.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. And I do put a little bit more towards Carson Wentz than you do as well. He's kind of like the journeyman that we saw Ryan Fitzpatrick be. That's sort of what he's starting to become. Only
he was
I'd
a
say
former
he's been
second
able to
overall
win
pick.
A little bit more than Fitzpatrick even.
Yeah, I put more stake into Fitzpatrick as opposed to Wentz because Fitzpatrick was a 7th round pick, while Carson Wentz was the
Fair.
2nd overall pick. I don't want to see the 2nd overall pick being a journeyman quarterback.
Well, but he has. I mean, this is what, like the 7th, 8th team he's played for. That would qualify him as a journeyman.
Oh no, like he's without a doubt a journeyman. I'm not disputing that. I'm just going, dude, you were the 2nd overall pick, man. Like that's not acceptable.
No. But I mean, we see that a lot nowadays in the NFL because teams have been so desperate for their star quarterback that we see so many guys picked in the top 10 that
Just don't pan out.
15, 20 years ago, they'd be third round picks, fourth round picks, sixth round picks.
10 years ago, let alone 15, 20, 30 years ago.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So my second question for you is, should Joe Burrow request a trade from the Bengals at the end of the season? And now this isn't really much more of like a this or that. It's more of like a yes or no type thing. But I think there is some serious consideration that needs to be talked about with this one.
If I'm Joe Burrow, why wait? Like, we talked earlier. I can't remember if it was in the pod or if it was in our picks video. Andrew Luck.
I think that was last week's pod.
Yeah, either way, we talked about Andrew Luck retiring like partway through a season, and it was because he kept getting hurt behind an O-line that could not protect him. Do you know who's been sacked more than Andrew Luck was at the same point in his career?
Joe Burrow.
Do you know who's had more season-ending injuries at this point in his career than Andrew Luck had? Joe Burrow. Like, if I'm Burrow, I'm looking at that and I'm looking at that parallel going, either trade me or I'm going to retire because I can't. Like, I'm not going to be able to walk by the time this contract is up, let alone get another contract with another team. Like, Joe Burrow, I would want out. Like, you look at Burrow, you put him on any team in the NFC, and immediately he is the best quarterback in the NFC.
Yeah.
Immediately. You put him on any other team in the AFC, and immediately that team is a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah.
And that includes the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm Burrow, I want out. Like, this offseason would have been the last straw. Having to threaten just to get T. Higgins signed, having to watch the mess that happened with Trey Hendrickson, and all through that, them not bringing in any offensive line help to truly protect you and support you. Like, it's unacceptable. This organization is a joke. They got what could have been the best quarterback to ever play this game. Like, people talk about Patrick Mahomes being the next Tom Brady. I think if Joe Burrow had gone to a team that would have effectively built a team around him, like Lamar Jackson did, like Josh Allen did, like Patrick Mahomes did, like Justin Herbert has now, like Joe Burrow would be the guy we're talking about going, man, he so early in his career, he's got 3 Super Bowls already. He's on the trajectory to be the best ever. Like, he had all the tools to do that. And the Cincinnati Bengals were like, yay, jersey money. And that's all they cared about.
Yeah. I sit back and say with you, like, it's been no secret Joe Burrow has been my favorite NFL player since his first year at LSU. I think he should request a trade, and you put it together pretty brutally honest there with all the things that have gone wrong. I think this is going to be one of those things that you and I are going to be talking a lot about throughout the season. So make sure to tune in for that. But that is all for this and that this week. And that is also it for this particular podcast this week. Thank you all very much for hanging out with us. For Sterling, I'm Brendan saying peace.